Since it's been 2 months since our last episode, we've got lots to catch you up on. It's worth the whole episode for the stories. Listen to it in 2 to 3 chunks, 1 chunk, how many chunks you need. And what is the best part of this episode? Cam joins us.
Let's go!
Dipping in my Tesla. 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 Dipping in my Tesla.
Howdy, folks, and welcome to episode 8 of Supercharged Podcast. It's been 2 months. We have been
it's been a long time.
We have been very off the ball. A lot of things have happened.
I like to think it as we were really busy.
We're really busy.
Yeah.
That's true. A lot of things have happened. We got a lot to break down and talk about. We have 2 new Model 3s in this room. Well, the cars aren't actually in this room. They're out front of the house. But 2 people in this room have the new cars. It's been a long time. We're rusty. That happened today. Tiger Woods won a PGA Tour event for the first time in 5 years. Tesla service came through on a 10-day-old Model 3, and on a day off for the service center, somehow miraculously fixed it. They towed the car from the garage at 1 a.m. We have a cat taking over our audio mixing board.
So levels might change at any moment.
Yeah, they could. I don't think she's been properly trained on use of this board.
I think she really did just turn
She
something
really
up.
She
might have.
I think she did.
turn the volume up. That's really happened. We're going to go with it because I think that's good.
That's great.
We need to
story.
come up.
And she goes
She's
in for
doing
it
it again.
Yes.
Stay over here.
Tesla almost went bankrupt or is investigated by the SEC. Elon might be going to prison. Probably not, but maybe. And 2 people here volunteered to deliver cars as volunteer employees at Tesla today. Big stories coming from that. We also have a new individual in the room that you guys only know from a British gentleman at the end of the show. Cameron is actually joining us here
Yay.
on episode
Finally
8.
here.
Welcome,
Yeah.
Cameron.
Thank
you.
Hey.
And we think we're going to have to introduce him, and it's been 2 months, so we feel maybe we're going to introduce everybody. So
One more time.
One more time. David, do you want to kick it off?
Sure.
Introduce yourself.
Sure, I'm David, and I am, first of all, a podcaster. I can say that now, like we're at episode 8. And a Model 3 owner. I'm excited. It's red, by the way.
Yeah, which
Just
is now like
it's like the most expensive paint ever.
$45,000
Yeah.
just to get that paint job, I think.
It's a
now?
super upgrade.
Yeah.
And I also say I'm an avid tech enthusiast and nerd out and lots of that kind of stuff. And I like to ride my bike. And that's a little bit about me. Love road trips.
Yep.
Go back and listen to the episodes
Yeah,
before
listen
this.
to his road trip stories. Hey, I actually shared some information about that today.
There you go.
Yeah.
Angela.
All right, I'm Angela. I am the estrogen of the club here, and one of my exciting news things is that I did actually take delivery of my Model 3 this 10 days ago, and mine's a midnight silver metallic all-wheel drive. And for those of you for the recap, I'm married to Ryan, who's the one who kicked you off on this episode today. We together are kind of have become nerds in the EV field, and
I think I was always a nerd.
you always were, and you kind of recruited
converted.
me, I
Yeah.
suppose. So I'm kind of growing on that. I'm still a little bit on the early phases myself, but outside of being a podcaster now, I'm also a veterinarian, and I run a lot, like literally run a lot. So yeah.
Well, I'm Ryan. I'm a Model S driver for 3 years now.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm also a airline pilot to get paid. And I guess I'm a sailor now. More on that later.
Actually, I think I'm more the sailor
You're more
than
the
you are.
sailor. Yeah, both kind of sailors or yachtsmen, if you will.
Makes us sound like old men.
And just a nerd, like you kind of explained. I'm married to Angela here, and we love our Teslas and EVs and like talking about them. And and we have our new, old, originally, like I said, introduced at the end of every show by a British gentleman, Cameron.
My first time here, my first podcast, so I don't think I can claim that I am a podcaster yet, but yes, I am Cameron. Finally made it out here. What took 8 episodes to do it. Like Angela, also a veterinarian, and that's actually how we know each other. And now I can finally say I am also a Model 3 owner. So I picked mine up just about a month ago. Blue all-wheel drive, and luckily no issues yet. Been the best car I've had by far. And I've been loving every minute of it so far.
And you're also obviously a cat lover.
Yeah,
The
there's a cat on my
seems
lap
to
named
love you.
Topanga, who we're getting some hair everywhere, and she's the one who turned up the volume earlier, but she's digging this.
So, we were saying, Ryan in the introduction here mentioned that we kind of had a incident last night with my new Model 3 that is only 10 days old. I guess 9 days old yesterday.
Yeah.
So Cam, Ryan, and I, and David all went to a couple hours away for a beer festival, and we were driving
socialize
back.
outside of the podcast.
We do.
Pre-show research.
I know.
Yeah, exactly. And we were driving home in a rainstorm. Not that that really probably makes much difference in this, but right as we got to the exit to pull off to come to our house, which is about 2 miles from the interstate, I got a whole bunch of warnings that started flashing up. A Christmas tree of
do you
warnings.
want
That
the-
was how it was described to me
buddy
today.
Kevin,
and I
yeah.
kind of.
Do you want the list of warnings?
Sure.
Maybe
Go for it. Go for it.
Some people might
Might
be
help
interested.
someone in the future.
Yeah.
Here we go. These are all the notifications. I took a little screenshot of it last night. Traction control disabled. Contact Tesla service. Regenerative braking disabled. Proceed with caution. Tire pressure system needs service. Contact Tesla service. Car needs service. Steering assist reduced. That was the worst part. Get to that.
Yeah.
ABS needs service. Contact Tesla service. Automatic emergency braking is disabled. There's a lot of stuff.
It is. So this all happens all at once at a stoplight, and I start to go, and I realize that my steering is very, very difficult all of a sudden. and of course, I don't have regenerative braking again, and it's been a while since, or not a while.
It's been 9 days.
It's been 9 days
Yeah.
since I've had to drive with
You were
that.
driving my car for like
and
a month or two.
I
before
hadn't.
that.
Yeah, I had been mostly driving Ryan's car prior to that because he'd been out of town. So, all of a sudden it was very, very difficult to drive. The parking sensor that normally says you're 5 feet from something, and it ding 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 and then tells you to stop, kept going off every time I would slow down. So we were driving and it kept dinging the whole time. It was really annoying, and we finally got home. It took me a couple attempts to get it into our garage because of the steering issue, and so we made a couple of DIY things to see if we could figure out what was going on. Updated the software, still wasn't working.
Hard reset, the double button steering wheel trick.
Yeah, nothing was working. So, called Tesla roadside assistance or whatever they call it. Customer service.
I could do it.
Go for it. You were the one.
So yeah, we it was like late last night too, because we got back. We went to dinner. Then we switched cars, drove the S to dinner, got back. I had sent an email to service. Because on the new My Tesla account, it's different than the Model S. They're completely different. When you click on the Manage the Model 3, you can just schedule a service appointment. So I clicked to schedule a service appointment. It said next appointment was October 2nd. I said, yeah, that ain't going to work. The car, like, unsteerable almost,
Can you imagine if someone just patiently waited until October 2nd?
So I said
10 more days.
So I had like an email request, so I sent that, and then we went to dinner, and I didn't hear anything back. So I called them, and I waited on hold forever, and they're clearly overwhelmed with all these additional cars. They're delivering 6-7 times the cars they've done before. So I call them, wait on hold. I finally get them. Now, of course, at this point, it decides to clear all the messages except emergency braking disabled. Mm-hmm. So she goes, well, all I see is emergency braking disabled. And I'm clicking. I'm like,
You're not worthy for that.
Right. I was like, she's like, yeah, those usually clear after she said 40 miles of driving. She said, just give us a call if it doesn't go away. I was like, okay. So then I put it in reverse.
At this point, Ryan
I
hadn't driven it yet, and
So-
he thought I was exaggerating
No,
with
I
how
don't-
hard it was to steer.
I'm not saying that. So I put it in reverse just to see. I mean, it's in the garage, and I'm backing up, in the driveway, and I'm like, yeah, this thing is you cannot turn this wheel very easily. It's worse than just I feel like normal, no, power steering. This is like a weird scenario. So I pull it back in. I had just connected to Wi-Fi. I had never been connected to Wi-Fi before. This was David's recommendation yesterday. So we put the Wi-Fi in. I put in the password for the Wi-Fi, connects, and then suddenly it says software update available. I'm like, oh, maybe this will fix it. This could be a weird software glitch. Yeah, why not? So I've downloaded software. It takes an hour. By the time it loads it all in, whatever, it does the whole thing. And now I turn it back on, and boom, all 6 come back up. So I instantly screenshot it. That's what I just read to you guys because I screenshotted it there. So I call them back. Again, wait on hold, 20 minutes. Different girl picks up, and she's like, oh, yeah, we'll get you a tow. So, again, it's like 11:30 at night last night, so I'm thinking, I'm not even thinking about it. She's like, I'll call you back in 15 minutes with the tow information. I was like, okay. I'm thinking the next morning. I'm not even thinking about it. And then she calls me back. She's like, tow guy will be there in a half hour. And, it caught me off guard that I didn't even say, well, you can just wait till the morning. I mean, it's not a big deal. We'll deal with it in the morning. It caught me off guard, whatever. So I was like, okay. So they towed it at 12. It was like midnight. And they towed the thing. I got it out in the front of the house, and they towed it. And this morning they said, local service will reach out in the morning. So they towed it to the local service center here in Portland. And this morning I tried to call service, and I realized, they're closed on Sunday. So I clicked the button to talk to the delivery people, at the local place here. And the guy's like, I just told him, the car came in last night. I get services closed, but I'm just trying to get a loaner car, So he's like, puts me on hold. He goes, hold on. Let me see if I can do anything about it. He comes back. He says, yeah, only service, I guess, can do that, which I thought was kind of weird. But he was like, but you can call back to that emergency number and see if they can get you a rental or something. So it's funny, every time you call the emergency number, they answer the phone with, are you in a safe location? That's the first thing it says. Like, yeah, the car's fine. Yeah, we're fine. So
They're just checking.
yeah, no, I get it. It's a legal thing, I'm sure. So they're awesome there. They were just like, oh yeah, and as I'm sitting there, they send me an email with the local Enterprise reservation. Go to Enterprise, you got a car. So we go to Enterprise this morning. You pick up the car. Literally, I'm driving home. I drove my Model S there. I'm driving home. I get a phone call. I answer it, and the guy's like, your car's fixed. It was a speed sensor in the left front tire, and the wire came loose. It was probably, from the factory because they're, going nuts, building cars as fast as they can. And, yeah, it's good to go. So that, I was like, well, turns out my wife's going to be over there in an hour because she's volunteering with deliveries. And this is a service guy. I don't think he's not in the sales. He's like volunteering with delivery. I was like, yeah, it's like an Elon tweet thing from the other day. She's doing it, and he laughed. He had never heard of it. He just, an Elon tweet to him was like, all right.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, yeah, pick up the car. So that goes into the story where you and Cam were.
So Cam and I volunteered to help with the deliveries. For those of you who don't know about this, is that a Tesla owner had tweeted to Elon saying
another podcaster, Ryan from Ride the Lightning.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Had tweeted Elon saying, there's probably a fair number of current owners who would be willing to help expedite deliveries, not necessarily expedite, but help make them a little more efficient by doing some of the explaining of the cars.
And this kind of all came from Elon earlier this week, and the announcement was that they had left their production hell that's been advertised for the last year and a half, and they're actually building cars now. And now they're in delivery hell because now that's the part that's ramped up. They ramped up the factory. The factory's putting the cars out. Now the delivery side,
They
the
need the employees
logistics,
to
getting
deliver
it
all
there.
these cars that
Right.
they're building.
Exactly.
Right. So now they're in that part, and
So our local Portland Tesla owner club, kind of the leader of that, coordinated volunteer times that people could go down and hang out and answer any questions that soon to be owners may have. And so Cam and I went and just literally a couple minutes ago got back from doing that, and surprisingly, the delivery center was not nearly as busy as we expected it to be.
it was crazy when we were there last Wednesday.
When we went last week, it was crazy. And today it wasn't bad at all. And part of it was I think they were running it a little bit more efficiently. They kind of had
they'd put in, since we were there 9 days ago when I just dropped you off there.
Right.
They'd put in computers at different
Yeah,
booths
yeah.
to do all the paperwork.
they had
and
people
move that
standing
ahead.
there waiting to check
Yeah,
people
they-
in.
They're
It
definitely getting
wasn't
better
like-
at it.
Yeah,
They're
are.
getting-
But
That's encouraging.
yeah.
you know, it was mostly probably 7 or 8 of us there volunteering.
Oh
I
yeah,
think.
there were too many people for the amount of cars that were being delivered, but I
Right.
feel like that's a good thing.
Right.
And like you said, seemed to be more employees because I also picked my car up on a Sunday at 1, so basically the same time we were there. I waited around. We saw like one guy. That was kind of it. There weren't those computers set up. There was nothing else. So they had more employees, more efficient. Which I don't know if good or bad thing, we didn't actually have to or get to talk to many new owners. And it seemed like the people that were there getting cars were actually previous Tesla owners, so they seemed to know everything
Pretty
too.
much knew everything, yeah.
But I guess the big thing is next weekend. So today I think the guy said maybe they were doing 20 to 30 cars. He wasn't quite sure. Next Saturday they're aiming for 90.
Well, that's
Oh,
because
so
next
better
Saturday
is-
is also known as the second to last day
Yes.
of the quarter.
So I think Saturday, Sunday are their end of quarter
Yeah, they're-
typical pushes.
So you're going to do a volunteer shift next weekend?
I don't know. I'll think about
Yeah,
it.
okay.
The
Might.
couple people that were there with us, because there was 5 or 6 of us on
Mm-hmm.
our shift. I think 2 of them said they're planning on being there all day next Saturday.
Wow.
Right.
So they probably have it covered already, but
Probably, yeah.
yeah.
But
So it's impressive. People are willing to volunteer and do all that, and it probably will be more useful next weekend. So
Yeah.
we'll see how that goes.
I mean,
Yeah.
even 30 cars in a day is...
I mean, they said compared to what they normally do,
Right.
Or what even 4, 5, 6 months ago.
Oh, I
that's
mean, when
a
it-
huge
Exactly.
difference.
When I got my Model S 3 years ago, I mean, they sat down with it. It must have been an hour and a half.
Yeah.
They sat down and went through everything in the car. I mean, they're probably doing 3, 4 deliveries a day at that point, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
You know, and it was like a big deal to them, and they went through everything, and it's just the scale. You know, obviously the scaling up is a big thing to the company. I mean, it's a tough thing to get through, and yeah, getting volunteers on board, a random tweet, and boom, it happened 2 days later. It's pretty nuts. But
yeah.
So were there other volunteers that were doing a little bit of discussion?
Yeah, I mean,
Since there's so many of you, maybe
yeah,
they
I mean,
were-
pretty much anytime somebody came in that was there to pick up a car, like one of the volunteers would go up and engage them in conversation and, you know, ask if they had any questions, this and that. And some people were like, you know, they kind of, you know, I don't really want
We
to
know
talk.
everything, or we're
yeah.
all doing our own
And then,
thing.
you know, others were a little bit more, oh yeah, tell me about it. Or, you know, and there was one couple that came in, they weren't actually picking up their car today, but they're picking it up later this week. But they happened to stop by for some paperwork stuff. And, they seem pretty interested in, you know, in getting like recommendations for some of the aftermarket things that people have been doing and that kind of thing. And they had several people come up and talk to them while they were there. So there was that. And then for me, they actually had one couple that went in to take delivery of their 3. And one of the salespeople came up and asked me if I was available, if I'd be able to go over and explain to them like the features of the car. I was like, sure. So I went in there. It turned out they were previous Model S owners, which Ryan and I are too. So it actually worked out pretty well. Because they asked me, you know, they were like, we're pretty familiar with the car already, but what would you say are the biggest differences between the 3 and the S?
So that's great. Like,
And so,
you can
yeah.
speak to that.
So, I
Yeah.
mean, basically, I just like went over the slight differences in like autopilot control and that, and then I helped them set up their driver profiles. I mean, that was literally about it. And, you know, kind of showed them where a couple things were hidden, like where the charger cables are, where they had hidden them for delivery, you know, where their key cards, you know, kind of going over that with
how they
them.
work.
Yeah. So,
That was probably super helpful to
Yeah.
review how the difference in autopilot.
right, yeah.
Sure.
I think that was
Yeah.
probably the main
It is
difference.
strange, yeah. With the I actually haven't turned yours autopilot on. I haven't driven it more than from the back of the house to the front of the house twice. Once to get towed.
Which I
Right.
wanted to say earlier.
Yeah.
I was calling that the original Roadster simulation mode.
Yes.
So that you could experience a car without power steering.
I've never driven an original Roadster. I would.
It
love
does
to.
not have power steering.
I would
There you go.
really love to. but
Judging
I
by how
haven't.
difficult it was to get my car in the garage last night, I don't know if I really want to drive a
bet,
Roadster
yeah.
now.
I
So.
think
But it's only like
lighter weight, and I think that it's somewhat more built for
Compensated.
it.
and
Maybe.
it's barely bigger than your toy Model S that
Yeah,
we have.
that's true.
You know, so
That's true.
it's a little tiny thing. Yeah. So,
So,
cool.
yeah,
Cool. Cool.
It was, it was,
So it was still fun.
It was
I mean,
still
I would
fun.
say it was. I thought it would be a little busier, and we would do some more chatting, but sounds like next Saturday, if that's what we want, we can go
Yeah.
back and do it then. So,
You know, and it honestly, it kind of turned out to be a Tesla owners meetup.
oh yeah.
I mean, really.
We chatted more with
We chatted with
other
other
volunteers
owners, you know.
And by the way, anyone in Portland, the guy you kind of referenced him before,
Yeah.
the guy Phil
Phil.
that runs the Portland Tesla group has for years. Shout out to Phil because he's pretty awesome and has always been awesome. I guess you have cards to give out with. Did you meet Phil? Was Phil over there?
Yeah, Phil was there.
We
Phil-
got some
Phil's
of
a
his
good
business
guy.
cards
He is a good
and-
guy.
So shout out to Phil, and if anyone is in Portland, please find the Facebook group, Tesla Owners Group, or Tesla Owners Club Portland. They're always organizing events, probably once a month or stuff, and a good group of people.
It's a great source of information too, you know, especially with so many new people taking deliveries and you know, admittedly not getting quite as much overall, you know,
time.
you know, talk through with a Tesla employee. You know, just being able to crowdsource some of that information and is helpful too, of, you know, local places too that I mean, here at the end right before we left, there were a couple guys were talking about, you know, where should you go to get your windows tinted, or, you know, where do you
Floor
go
mats
for
and-
yeah, exactly. So
Charging, I feel, is a big
Accessories
one. That's
and-
always
That was-
a new electric car owner. Like charging's like an overwhelming thing.
The
and
one
range
couple that came
anxiety
in-
and trying to
yeah.
deal through all that,
Right.
and learning about plug share and learning about how to use superchargers and how to
Yeah.
kind of think a little more about a road trip and that.
Exactly.
Yeah, but not a problem once you get used to it. Just for a newbie that has no idea and maybe doesn't listen to podcasts about EVs and whatnot and watch
What?
YouTube
There's
videos.
people who don't listen to this podcast?
You know, so that might be a little overwhelming too. So good source of information that hey, you
think it
can
is.
do it. You can drive this car anywhere you want. You can drive
You
it.
know, and I think it's helpful to
could-
hear it from a owner's perspective too. You know, I mean, it's so much to hear it from an employee who obviously has been trained in the vehicle very closely and everything, but you know, to hear it from someone who's, I mean, I'm sure a lot of employees probably are driving Teslas now too, but you know, a lot of us have multiple Teslas or, you know, have experience in different types, and to be able to, you know, give them information on those things that aren't necessarily Tesla related, but just related to driving an electric vehicle. So
Sometimes there's something about the rapport of, you know, owner to owner versus corporation to owner, and sometimes it's just more comfortable to talk about
exactly. Yeah.
It's got to be interesting. Walk over and there's
recommendations
just
and
a
stuff.
volunteer owner there talking about the car. Like, have you ever walked into a Toyota dealership and had
No.
a Camry owner be like, "Let me tell you about the Camry."
Yeah. I feel like the only place that could possibly happen is Subaru or something. But
Yeah.
I'll go back and be like, I used to own a Subaru, 2 of them actually.
So let's put Cam on the spot because he's a new Tesla owner.
this is the grilling, we call it.
Yes.
This is initiation. Well, first
Hazing, perhaps.
hazing. So first thing is I rolled this marijuana cigarette, and I'm going to have Cameron smoke it.
Oh dear God. Did not.
I need my whiskey first, though.
Oh, you need
that.
your
Oh wait, first you drink the whiskey.
Well, you're
do
drinking
it.
a beer.
We got to
I
do
mean-
it right, though. But
Right. Since this is an audio-only podcast, no one will know if he's actually
is true.
smoking a marijuana cigarette. It won't be a meme, and no one would care about him
it won't blow
smoking
up on
it anyway.
Twitter afterwards.
Probably won't. I'm kidding. There's no. We don't have that. But
But it is legal in Oregon.
It is
it
legal
is
in
legal in
Oregon.
Oregon. Right. That was
Correct.
Lud. Yeah, that's obviously a reference to the Joe Rogan, Elon Musk little thing. No, but the way I'm going to put you on the spot, we're going to just kind of ask you rapid fire questions about being a new Tesla owner and your
Okay.
experience with the Model 3 so far.
All right, do it.
I'll start, I guess. How do you like it?
Well, love it, obviously.
Original question,
Yeah,
Ryan.
I mean,
Thanks.
been waited, it was 800 and something days from reservation to pick up.
You
and
were day one.
I was a
I think it's like
He was
800
a-
and something.
in
He was a
line.
stand in line.
stand in line.
Yeah.
I did have to work that day, so I had to take an extra long lunch break. So I was maybe like 2 hours into the line, so I wasn't the first one there. But day one in line, and then waited until all-wheel drive came out, and then the second, it was that night was when I ordered it, and it was
The day all-wheel drive became available.
for
so you were-
me, yeah, at
For
least.
you,
So I mean, I think it was out a couple months before that or whatever. But once, because they did that one day where all of a sudden it was like pretty much everyone could order it. Then that's when I ordered, And you guys were that day or a couple days
We
later?
were like a week later, I think.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
We were still debating big battery, little battery.
Right.
Kind of held out and then
Yeah.
finally decided,
do
we'll
it.
get the full tax credit.
Yeah,
whatever.
it's worth it. That's what I was
Yeah.
figured. You got to take advantage of. I
Mm-hmm.
wanted the all-wheel drive, live on a hill. We get, 2 days of snow and ice here a year, so
Well,
May or
we
may
should
not be worth it,
congratulate you on your discipline to wait
was tough.
because you got to drive mine.
gotta drive yours. That was
right away.
made it harder.
Yeah, and then it was like, oh, maybe I could just do the rear wheel drive.
It's like I do have an SUV that I'm probably gonna keep, but I'm gonna hold out. So, and I'm glad I did.
It's gonna be awesome to take it skiing.
I know.
though,
That's-
yeah,
We
First
talked about
time
that
once,
today,
yeah.
actually.
yeah.
Once Hood opens up for skiing, I'm going there. So
Yep.
we'll see how the 3 does in the snow.
Is there still no roof rack solution for the tree?
no, nothing official. But
Yeah.
Just a
Angela,
suction cup.
you shared a link with me, but I didn't pursue it. Is Thule trying to do it locally here? You sent me a link about
What-
they
what
wanted to
was that?
measure
Yeah.
someone's car. They're trying to get a hold of Model
was-
3s to look at.
Right. Well, who was that?
That was through the Facebook group.
Yeah, I
was it,
think
right?
so.
That someone
Yeah.
volunteered to, give
Seems
them their
like
car
a-
for the week. And
Yeah.
Northwest
measurements,
Company
yeah.
is trying to do some sizing for roof racks. I'm going to continue the grilling.
Oh yeah. Distracted.
Number one, like, if you can pick a top favorite feature in your new car, obviously your new Tesla.
The silence.
Oh,
I feel like
interesting.
Oh.
I've only had, so my 2 previous cars have been a Nissan Xterra. That was my 16-year-old car, and I had that for till I was 23. And then I switched to a Honda Element. So 2 slow, loud. I mean, again, at least I had the 4-wheel drive on them, but the complete opposite cars, basically. And so this car, I mean, 1 at 0 to 60 time is obviously fun, but the weird part is you're doing it silently. Like
Yeah.
my Honda Element this winter, studded tires on there, you couldn't turn the radio up loud enough to hear anything while you're driving down the highway. So totally different experience, and I think that's probably what I enjoy the most so far.
That means I have to come up with a question. You guys didn't prepare me for this.
Or we can just rapid fire.
We
We
didn't-
can buy you more
yeah,
time.
Yeah, do that.
Well, let's go to the opposite end. What's been the most frustrating change feature for you?
Being low to the ground.
Okay.
Again, I've always
Yeah.
been upright.
Yeah.
And
I agree with
my
that one.
driveway is also a little bit of a slant, so it kind of makes it awkward to get out of the car. I do like the easy entry, and I have it like lift the seat up when I open the door, so that helps a little bit. But that's still probably the biggest.
Are you back? You
difference.
have your charger outside. I've seen
So
it there outside.
I
the
usually
garage.
back in,
Yeah.
which makes it easier because then I'm down on the slope. Sometimes when I'm not charging, just pull straight forward.
Okay.
Can't
harder-
open the
harder
door
to
that
open the
wide
door,
with the car
yeah.
next to it.
Do you have the long cable? There's like a
20 or 24?
That's the
foot?
longer one,
Yeah,
right?
so
Yeah,
I
yeah.
technically
Yeah.
could charge either direction, but
Right.
it's much easier just to back up
Sure.
and then unloop one loop and plug it in.
sure.
I mean, you guys aren't rapid fire asking me questions. I'll try not to be hurt by that.
Well,
but
we were.
but-
It was more the idea
I'm aware of
Visually
that. But
there's
I
a
do
lot
have,
on a
I do,
Tesla.
you know, going down. I mean, I absolutely love my 3 so far.
Do you want to go for both
even
questions?
with its issues?
Top question.
Top question.
Like favorite and not favorite feature.
So I think, honestly, and I've said this multiple times, I think that this car was literally built for me, because it, you know, Ryan's car, you know, yeah, I can push the seat up and I can adjust the steering wheel, but I still feel like a really tiny person driving a really big car. Whereas this, I am able to adjust it much more so that it's comfortable for me to drive. Like the seat belt has the height adjustable. I think that's probably one of my number one things that I love about it. That I don't have, like where the S is, you know, halfway choking me out while I'm driving. And then just the way that, you know, my butt fits in the seat. Like I feel like the like where the sides come up is like just exactly the right size for me. So
yeah, if those Tesla seat designers are listening right now, you really nailed it
you
here at the
nailed
Vinton
it
household.
for me. You must have taken my measurements.
And it could
so.
be that the S has kind of conformed to my butt at this point, which
But
is,
even when
which
you
is
first
clearly
got
larger
it-
than your butt.
But even
know,
when you
so-
first got it, I feel like this just fits me better. It definitely fits me better. But that also leads me to my biggest complaint about the car is that being that the center screen is your only, you know, is your navigation and everything, and especially when you're using navigation and the prompts of where to turn are on the far right side, because I'm so close up to the dashboard, I literally have to turn my head to look over there. I can't use peripheral vision just because of the angle, the steeper angle that I'm at for that. And if I had one thing I would change about it, it'd be that I would be able to just slide that prompt over toward the left side of the screen or left side of the navigation screen.
Tesla software developers.
It would just make it a lot easier for me to see
Yeah.
for that. That's, probably my one thing. And I've gotten very used to in the S where it's in the binnacle right in front of you.
I will say,
right there.
I laughed at you a couple times about you saying we had an issue a couple software updates ago with my Model S that the binnacle display in front of you there just blacked out once or twice.
Yeah.
And then, the whole display went off. And
That was the pre-Model 3 simulation mode. You just didn't know it then. That was the...
So I will say that happened a couple times 6 months ago with one software update, and then a new software update fixed it. I don't know, crashed 3 or 4 times or something with one update. And you mentioned you've been driving the Model 3, and once or twice you kind of were like, "What the hell happened to the middle display?"
I was driving it at night. This was the first time it happened. It was the first night we had the car, and it was dark out, and I get in the car and start driving, and I realized there's nothing lit up in front of me, and I was like, "Oh crap!" It didn't turn on, and I was of course I'm frustrated because I think my brand new car isn't working.
Right.
And it literally took me a few seconds to realize there's not actually a screen in front of me. Like there's nothing to light up right there. So, and that was, I actually did it again the other day when I was leaving work. That I did that too.
You had said that. I kind of laughed at you yesterday. I think you were telling that story. And then last night at 1 a.m. when I have to move the car to get it towed because it's in the garage and we got like an alley in the back of the house. So the guy's like, the tow truck driver calls me and says I'm in front of the house. And I was like, oh, I can get it in front of the house. I can get it there. So I back it out. It's only the second time I've ever driven it. That was in day. And the other time I had driven it the exact same way. I pulled it out and parked it in front so I could pull my car in to charge because we just have the one charger in the garage. So I do the same thing last night. And I, like 2 seconds into driving it, I'm in the alleyway here. And I'm looking down and I'm like, where the fuck's the center screen display? Where's the center screen display? And then I was like, oh. I did the exact same thing. It was really weird at night without anything in front of me there. No.
I actually brought that up to the couple that I was doing the orientation for today, so they got a laugh up about that.
Yeah.
We'll see if they notice.
And
All right.
I'll say something too, just to finish that out. So Angela was telling this story yesterday too while we were at the beer fest. So whether or not this is kind of dorky, last night driving home, I was like, what would it be like to be Angela's size? So I imagined leaning way forward.
Angela's like 5'2".
I'm 5'3".
Okay, sorry.
So yeah, a little bit of a height difference there.
Yeah.
And so I mean, it was night, so obviously it was in night mode. I leaned way forward, and yeah, that screen perspective is way different. So I sit fairly far back. To me, it's not glancing much to the right at all. If you're really close, I do think it would be different.
Yeah.
But I also agree with the navigation left side versus right side.
Yeah, be a lot easier.
Should we do another grilling question?
Sure. What do you got?
Let's see. Favorite Tesla paint color with a justification for why?
Well, I feel like it's all going to be what we all own, right?
No, that's up to you.
Okay, well, blue, because that's what I have, so I love it. I feel like you got different shades depending on the lighting. It does show dirt decently well, but
There's the cat
otherwise,
again.
yeah. Otherwise, obviously, that's my favorite color. That's why I paid, only $1,000 extra for that versus
That's like a value.
prices have changed now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we have 2 matching
Yeah.
midnight silver
Yeah.
metallic
3.
cars.
3 of them.
3 of them.
We do.
You'll get an Instagram post from a drone about that in an hour or 2.
Yep.
But
Yeah, I had to go with the I couldn't help it. I had to get matching cars. So now we have his and hers vehicles that are named after 50 Shades of Grey characters.
can we?
And so I jokingly said it's 50 Shades of Midnight Silver Metallic. But Ryan tweeted E.L. James, who is the author of the 50 Shades of Grey series, and I'll admit I'm a little bit obsessed. Yeah, it's a weak side of me, I guess. But
The car
I love
names are the 2.
Christian is my car and Anastasia is Ryan's.
And they are the 2 main characters.
And they are the 2 main characters, and so it's my Ryan tweeted this to E.L. James, and she actually replied. Oh my god, I'm so excited! Ryan texted me this at work, and when I was at work, and like now everybody at work knows about it because I was just so excited.
Yeah.
But yeah, she actually tweeted back and said thanks for sharing and drive safely. But that
I put
You have to come
That
up with
was
a name
like-
for the little mini Tesla, the little kid-sized Tesla you guys have.
What is their kid? They have a kid in the
yeah,
last
Teddy.
book.
So I thought,
Oh, you just ruined it. I haven't seen that movie
Oh,
yet.
sorry. You could- yeah.
Please, spoiler alerts.
I don't know if I can't remember if they say his name in the movie. To
Let
be
me
honest.
just spoil it for everyone. There's a bunch of boobs, and then, and then at the end, you know, that's
It's okay. Beyond that, it's a good love story, and yeah, it has some dirty things, and you can get past that. But it's got a good love story about a couple that really loves each other and cares about each other very much. So I find that I like it a lot, and so
Great.
it's my guilty pleasure.
Guess I have to watch the last movie to find out how it all ends.
Yeah, you
deal.
should.
Apparently,
You
there's a
should.
child. Thanks again, Ryan.
So, anyway, yeah. So, since you brought that up, or we brought that up, is that E.L. James was actually the first person to take delivery of a what do you call it? Left seat, or
Right-hand drive.
right-hand drive,
Yeah.
Model S in the UK,
Huh?
and
Trivia.
and there was a Model S in Midnight Silver Metallic in the movie,
Hmm.
one of the movies.
Learn something every day.
I happened to spot that.
I
So
did.
the-
I did use in my tweet to her the hashtag. Oh, I messed up the hashtag. I meant to write safer than an Audi, and I wrote safe than an Audi. That doesn't really make sense. But the whole idea that he drives Audis because they're like the safest car, but Teslas are doing pretty good in crash test
yeah.
ratings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think when the books were being written,
No.
Teslas weren't out
Sure.
yet. Although, if I do the timing right, I think the first one was published around the time the Tesla Model S
Okay.
came out. So, okay, anyway.
Right. So
But,
this is this supercharged podcast now. It's called 50 Shades of Grey podcast. We'll just-
There probably already is one of those, to
Maybe,
be honest.
sure.
I don't really know that.
I haven't
but-
looked that up yet.
Anyway, we digress.
So, lots of activity
Yes.
not only happening with these new cars, but you referenced that Elon thing. He's been making some crazy news lately.
All right, so it's been 2 months. We were doing a little segment on the show called Elon's Twitter claim of the week, but it's been 2 months. So we'll go. Elon's Twitter claim of the last 70 years days.
Did you say 70-ish
I
days?
said 70-ish.
70-ish days.
Oh, okay.
That was when the
It's-
last podcast was.
I think so.
He's,
Wow.
I
Okay.
think so.
a lot of crazy stuff has happened.
There is.
Topanga, stop.
So, I mean, there's a lot of candidates for this, and in a normal 70-day cycle, there'd be a lot of. That was kind of a joke too, but there'd be a lot of options here. But I think we have to go. I mean, there's candidates. We could go with like the pedophile thing, but obviously we got to go with considering taking Tesla private at 420, funding secured, and talk about that.
Yeah.
No, I just thought of the 420. Never
Everyone
mind.
did think it
did
was
you just
a
think of that?
I just thought of
marijuana
that.
reference. It's
How did?
not.
Am I
That-
way behind the times?
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
That was,
Everyone
that
was already there.
That was
All right.
quite referenced at the time.
Okay.
So the stock was trading at like maybe 340 that day, 340, something like that. That day when that happened, and it went nuts. And I'm a nerd, so I watch CNBC sometimes during the day, and
Sometimes.
I happened to be watching it that day, and they went ballistic. I also, again, am a nerd, so my Elon's tweets get push notifications to my phone.
I get that too.
Yeah, okay. Okay, I'm not alone.
Not that bad.
So I got that. It literally popped up on my phone, and about 10 seconds later, the CNBC guy's like, what? This is nuts. And who says, what kind of CEO says this? And yada, yada. And Tesla's not responding. And yeah, it goes on. And then about an hour later, they shut down trading. Probably not the best way to handle that. Usually big announcements that could really move a stock should probably happen after hours.
How high did it get in that time
Uh,
frame?
it was
370,
it was
390?
no higher. So all-time high is like 389 or something, and it was within like $2 of that.
Okay.
At one point, I should have sold, but so it jumped up a lot right away before they shut it down. And they shut it down for an hour or two or something, and then made a statement that, well, I don't know, whatever. So anyway, then time went on, and 2 weeks later, they said they were serious about it, and they said this Saudi fund was potentially gonna, have that money, and then yada yada. And there's a lot of logistics there. As far as owning a private company, it's kind of tough for individual investors to do that if you're not an accredited investor, which requires a certain amount of either training in securities or a certain amount of net worth or income. There's a bunch of different qualifications. So Elon wanted to, have everybody that was currently an owner wanted to stay a owner, but that's not really legally possible in most scenarios. So that kind of backfired, and then they backed down from it a couple weeks later. Yeah. Anyone want to give thoughts before I give thoughts?
So I guess as a very low investor, I
Yeah.
can't remember how many shares I have. It's not many.
Yeah.
What would have happened to someone like me in that scenario? Do we even know?
Well, yeah. I mean, Elon is his own. He can be his own worst enemy.
Because he made it seem like no big deal. We'd all do great.
Yeah, and then I think they went and talked to a couple people, and then they said, "Well, that's not really how that
Yeah.
works, because me and you are probably in the same scenario share-wise, and probably neither of us meet accredited investor standards."
I doubt it.
And yeah, so yeah, I think that was part of it. And then when they finally backed down from it, there was blog post after that. Thankfully, a little more than tweets is probably how that stuff should be handled. But it's a new world. The president makes foreign policy on Twitter, and I guess
By comparison, that's not bad.
it's a new world. So yeah, basically they realized that's not really legally possible.
Or I think there was an angle to the blog that's not even, upon consideration, that's not even what we want for the company. It
Yeah.
may not be the right choice. And I'll give my thoughts.
Yeah.
Because I think Elon's been an incredible inventor. He's a great engineer, great designer. He's contributing to a lot of things at Tesla and at SpaceX. But it's like, man, learn how to conduct business, learn how to communicate. I get super frustrated because I see all the amazing work he does, and then I see how poorly he communicates, in my opinion, which is, my perspective is you just need to hire someone to manage that for you.
And suppose it's being considered there, and that might be, yeah. I mean, obviously, he's done a lot of great things, and I mean, he took Tesla. No, there hasn't been a startup car company in 80, 90 years in this
Yeah.
country. I mean, it just doesn't happen, and they've obviously achieved a lot. I mean, they came from. They're now making 5,000 Model 3s a week. They really are. I mean, it's really getting out. So they get a lot of negative press, but at the same time, nobody's ramped up a car company like this before. I mean, it's pretty incredible what they're doing. And they came from a little Lotus that they took the engine out of and put some batteries in the back of. And
That simple.
I don't know if it's quite that, but you're right. I mean, it's a very different
a long
approach.
way.
I just it has to show up in the stress of getting the company to this place of building 5,000 cars a week, right? I think he was making some poor decisions that, in a clear mind, maybe he wouldn't have.
Yeah, and I get his frustration with he's trying to do something and shareholders want to do something else, and then there's the short sellers, which I'm still not really sure why it's legal to short sell a stock. I mean, that seems like against everything that happens on the market, right? Why can you bet against a company trying to root for their failure? That seems bad of any company, not just Tesla.
It sounds like gambling. Well, I mean,
yeah, but why can you bet against an organization doing good? You want every organization on the stock market to do good, right? That's what we should want. Every company should be successful. That'd be great. And obviously not possible, but why can people bet against that? You want investors that believe in the company buying the shares, right? So I get those frustrations for sure. And, but yeah, logistically, pretty tough nut to crack, and the SEC is kind of maybe sort of investigating it, and the Department of Justice is maybe sort of investigating it, but I don't think any of us are security lawyers, so we can't probably.
No, we don't.
No.
But hopefully things are getting under control there.
Hopefully,
You can
but I mean,
hire
still
some
burning
communications
still burning
consultants.
the candle at both ends, right? I mean, they SpaceX this week announced they're going to send a BFR around the moon with 8 artists on it, and so they're trying to do that, and they pushed Elon time 2023, so we'll see that.
That's like 2030 probably.
So, yeah, I mean, the guy's got a lot going on for
Yeah,
sure.
for sure.
But they seem to be ramping up, and as you've seen in deliveries, I mean, it's promising to me as a shareholder how many cars they're putting out and how the deliveries are backed up. Yes, there's issues there in the delivery front, but that's probably to be expected if you're going to suddenly make so many cars and
Well, it
try to
seems
ramp
like
a company up.
That's more easy to fix than building cars.
I-
Maybe.
maybe.
I would think so. But
I mean, that's a
Retail's
not an
pretty
expert.
hard, but
oh yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I would say
It's a
I would
different
expect it to
problem.
be slightly easier.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a different problem for sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
More in the front of people problems.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
hiring people,
It's an
training
HR
people,
issue, right.
delivering
It is, yeah.
Paying people enough, keeping people around. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a whole nother
Yeah.
situation than just.
They're not using robots, they're not using automation for that, but who knows? Maybe they can figure that out.
Well, they claim it's
Right.
going to be an app that you sign everything
Here is your
on.
car.
self-driving car, right? Just
Well, and the
shows up at your
self-driving
house
car just
someday.
shows up at your house. There you go.
This is how you use it.
Right. Boop, boop, boop. Right.
David's robot voice is really good.
It's a good robot voice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Did we want to talk about the delivery experience? Just kind of all ties into
kind
that?
of does tie in. I mean, we've kind of hashed on this a little bit in the past too, but we've on previous episodes talked about David's delivery experience with his original Model S, in a warehouse in Chicago.
Yep.
The cat is getting herself all tangled up in our cords
We got
now.
it.
And then Ryan's and my experience getting RS, a couple, 3 years ago now, and then
Just Cameron's pants with cat hair. His
man,
jeans.
our cat cannot leave Cam alone, unfortunately.
Sorry.
And then of course, when I went with David to go pick up his Model 3 and how that was different, and now Cam and I going and picking up our Model 3s, and we've discussed this ourselves a fair amount, but just the differences in the whole delivery process. They've now, I understand it. I understand that they're growing. It's a
a lot of growing
huge thing.
pains,
They're
yes.
growing this
Yeah.
company and just not being able to keep up, which I completely understand. But there's really some frustrations that I feel like really could be handled in different ways. And probably the number one thing for me was just the paperwork aspect was so difficult because it's all managed centrally through, Las Vegas now,
Which
and
could be a good idea. It could work out.
possibly. But the problem is when you have state specific things that need to be dealt
need to
with,
know about it.
and they need to know about it. We went in, Ryan and I
Really quickly, I'll
yeah.
just say that there's, if you have not taken to delivery of a Tesla and you're considering it, there seems to be a Tesla office in Las Vegas that is like central dispatch for all of the
That is all.
work.
The emergency people I talked to last night did mention they were in Vegas.
Vegas.
Too.
Oh, so they have
it's like the
so
call
like a
center.
call
No,
center.
one said he was in Utah.
Oh.
The one this morning said he was in Utah.
Going this morning.
I have heard there's a Utah place too. I don't know.
Yeah.
where,
Well,
but
maybe they
yeah.
got two call
About the rental
centers.
car.
Yeah.
About the rental car. The guy you talked to this morning.
The second guy, maybe. The first guy said
Anyway.
he was in Vegas.
Okay.
So
well,
Vegas,
anyway.
I think
So-
I think this is important for what you're going to tell us.
It
here.
is. It is. So, thinking back to when Ryan and I took delivery of our Model S, I have a really hard time saying Model S, Model 3. I don't know why I confuse those up so much. A couple years ago, the actual Portland delivery center contacted us to set everything up. We went in there and handled all the paperwork
I think they called
in
him
person.
the delivery specialist. The
Delivery
guy that we
specialist.
talked to, and he was in Portland at the time. we got the
Right,
MLS.
correct. Yeah, and and he was our contact. We could email him, and he would give us updates and all this, and
I think he even drove the license plates to the house.
he did. There was a mix-up with our license
Yeah.
plates, and he actually brought them over to our house, which was pretty great. But this time around, that was all handled remotely through Las Vegas, and Ryan and I were getting to the point that we were needing to. They had set up our delivery, and the people that contacted us to do that were in Las Vegas, and they said, contact us and we'll schedule a time. So we scheduled a time, and then ahead of time they asked for, or our lender, or for our bank, requested certain paperwork. And so Ryan emailed the people in Vegas to see if they could get that paperwork sent over to him so that he could pass it on to our bank. And
There's two things. They wanted a purchase order, and then they wanted a title registration.
correct. So yeah.
Yeah.
And so this was 4 days ahead of our delivery date, I
The
believe.
first time I contacted them, yeah.
Yeah.
maybe
We didn't hear back from them for
like 2 days.
two or 2.5 days. Hear back from them, and they said, "Oh, we're gonna have to push back your delivery because we can't get the paperwork done in time."
Yeah.
And we're
We wanted
like,
to push it back like 4 days or something.
yeah, and I was like, well, I have to work all weekend, so I
was going out of town.
Ryan was heading out of town, so I was like, the soonest we could come in is like another week from now, and that's not really fair to us because
The
you
car
know,
was
we
there.
got you. The
They
car
had
was
told days ahead of time.
the car was
in the
already
parking lot.
in Portland,
Yeah.
and we had submitted all our paperwork. We were just waiting for this one copy as something to give to our lender. And anyway, so it became kind of a nightmare. We finally, they pushed back the delivery to just a different hour on the day. And that morning, Ryan and I went down to our bank with what we thought was the correct paperwork, and
That finally gotten from the guy.
that we had finally,
Called
I
him
mean, it took
times.
multiple
It was tough
phone
to get a hold of
calls,
him.
finally got to the bank, and they said, no, we actually need this other piece. We call the guy in
Which
Vegas.
is the title registration, which is actually
No, title, is that what it was called?
I
It
think
was
so.
title something.
title
There's some
application.
DMV
Oh,
registration or
title
something.
application, that's what it was.
Which is, at least in Oregon, I don't know other states, I can't speak for other states, I don't know. But it's an Oregon DMV form
right.
that's applying for the title that they want to see the lender as the lien holder on
Correct.
that application. And the guy in Vegas was like, I don't know what that is. And I was like, he told me 99% of people just need that purchase order. I was like, well, my bank is asking for this, man. So
And he had no idea what
I
it
don't know what to
was.
tell
and then,
ya.
then we had a little bit of a struggle to get a hold of someone at the local.
No, that doesn't. When I called the local one and asked him for that. I finally just called the local guy,
Yeah.
which was at the service center, and he right away said,
Oh,
"Oh,
that's
yeah."
right.
He goes, "Oh yeah, I can email you that. No problem. I got that." And he was even like, "The lien holder is listed as," and read the bank, and I
Yeah.
was like, "Yep, that's
Exactly
exactly what I
what I
need." You have the forms. Somebody's doing the work behind.
Yeah.
It's just the guy in Vegas.
Send it to me.
I'm sure every state's got a little different paperwork and it's different, and that's probably a lot for a central office to handle. I like the general idea of them trying to centralize that and make everything streamlined, but there probably are local specific things that it'd be tough to be aware of all 50 states
Plus-
rules. And plus, if you're going to do international, I mean, who the heck knows how that works in other countries.
Special plates, which think
So-
about how that multiplies out. Like it's special
Right.
plates times 50 states worth of special
Yeah.
plates.
Well, and that was the other issue. Cam can actually mention that.
So yeah, so basically, I mean, I used the same lender as Angela and Ryan did, so the exact same issues. Getting that paperwork and everything was hard. The day I picked up the car, and we'll probably talk about that in a little bit, so that went, all right. But then the next day, I kind of forgot that I did want to do, not like a vanity plate, but Oregon has like 50 different options for plates. So there's one I wanted to do, and I never saw the option on the paperwork. I feel like the only time when I was communicating with that Central Vegas specialist, whatever they're going to be called, was just if I was transferring a customized license plate. So I just told them no there and then didn't think of it. The nice part though, so I picked my car up on Sunday. I called Tesla Monday, told them, I had this issue. I wanted to
the
request
local
a place. Yeah, so
Tesla,
Tesla,
right?
where I picked
Yeah.
up the car in Portland. They transferred me to one person. I told them the issue and was like, hey, I just totally forgot to even ask about this on Sunday. I don't know what's going on with the paperwork. Like, can I get this one plate? And he's like, oh yeah, I've still got your paperwork here. That should be no problem. So I was like, well, that's great. And then he's like, I'm pretty sure this plate costs a little bit more. Like, I could swing down, I've got today off. I could come in there and pay. And he's like, no, we'll eat the cost. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Have you gotten the permanent plates yet?
I've not.
Okay,
So
so we don't know if
Still
it's
not
works yet.
sure.
Future
I mean,
update.
We'll see. So if it went to plan,
Yeah.
again, great customer service, something that I didn't ask about. I also didn't see the option, so I feel like you think somewhere in there that would come up. But them just willing to be like, yep, we got it, no big deal. Like, again, they
That's
thanked
about-
me. I said, I can swing by with a check. It's no problem. Nope, don't worry about
That's
it.
about exactly what happened with us.
Yeah, I
So-
think Angela did the same thing.
Right.
But,
Well,
yeah.
because so then I heard about this from Cam, so I was like, oh, and I actually wanted the same plates that Cam got, and so
hopefully we'll get.
we'll see. So while we were talking to the people in Vegas and trying to get everything organized, Ryan brought that up, that we wanted to get not the, traditional like plates that everybody gets just standard. We wanted to get different ones. And he said he doesn't handle that. They don't deal with that there. You have to deal with it through your local service center or delivery center. And so when we went in to actually buy the car, again, we go through all the paperwork and didn't see anything on there that like had the option of changing what plates you get or anything like that. And so Ryan mentioned it or asked about it, and they didn't. The girl we were talking to, who in her defense was actually the Tesla solar salesperson who was pulled in to help with deliveries that day because they were just so overwhelmed, but she wasn't sure, and so went and talked to another girl, and she said, oh yeah, no problem, we'll get it taken care of. But I have yet to get my plates as well, so we'll see.
I hear it takes a couple months, right?
It does, yeah.
I'm hoping to have mine
typically,
in a month.
so
I want to see if you guys get your plates without extra cost.
we'll see.
Because
We'll see.
There'll be a bill, yeah.
How is it they made no errors on mine? They charged me the extra amount for my special plates.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Apparently, we all feel real special. None of us did vanity plates.
No.
So, but we do, like Oregon has all these different causes. You pay a little extra, it goes into a special fund for that cause, and
Right.
then you get a neat looking plate. So
Right.
mine's cycling, and you have Pacific Wonderland.
Yeah,
Yeah, which
that's
is-
the same
Which
as
is what we're going
Cam
for,
and I
which
are
I think
getting
is
too.
like Historical Society.
I thought it was.
That sounds right.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Maybe.
you pay
Yeah.
like $100 flat fee, and that's it.
They
Yeah.
donate it to them. And,
Yeah.
We'll see.
So we'll see.
We'll see
But
how that works out.
We'll see.
All they did was like write that in the margin of
Yeah.
of the paperwork.
form. So
we'll see.
We'll see if we end up with those or not. We'll have to.
We'll see.
The
cross that bridge
normal
when we get to
Oregon
it.
plates aren't bad, so I'm not going to be upset about it.
I mean,
but-
I will take them back if, but I can deal with it myself through the DMV. It's not a
Yeah,
big deal.
sure,
But
that's-
yeah,
Take these tree plates back. I don't want them.
I want the blue
those were
plate.
on my Subaru. But yeah, so and then once we actually got to the delivery center to get the car, they were definitely running a lot behind. We were scheduled for 6 p.m., which of course they'd been delivering all day at this point, so they were running behind, and it wasn't a big deal. But they came up and they realized that we were previous owners, and so they were like, oh, you're going to be real easy. Do you need much of a walkthrough? I was like, really, no, we don't, because we already drive a Tesla. We have our best friend has a Model 3. We've already driven one ourselves. Like, it's not a big deal. And so we were kind of in and out pretty quick once we actually got the car. And of course it was a torrential downpour all of a sudden.
We did have one issue that we tried to solve, that I will tell everyone how to solve it. When you get two Teslas on the same account, your app, you can just swipe between them. And then I also discovered that same day that if you keep swiping, if you have a solar, even if it's an old Solar City system prior to the Tesla takeover, that also comes up in there. I had no idea. But we were trying to get your car in the app and it wasn't loading. And she was like, well, it should be in the app. That's weird. So she went back to try to find that for 10 minutes and then was solving some other issue. Just so you know, the way you need to solve this problem, log out, log back in.
It's like the universal reboot, basically.
Right.
Exactly.
Once we did that, we tried to figure everything out of how to connect it to the app and the car and the touchscreen. Yeah, all you had to do was sign out, sign back in, and now you can swipe between the other cars. And miraculously, the solar system. Probably for the last year, I could have swiped right on my car and it would have shown the solar system, but I didn't know it did that. So, so we did solve that problem.
So, yeah. But, so I was mentioning it was torrential downpour. And so they were very apologetic that I couldn't really get a great look at the car because it was very, very wet. But it turned out it looks great. So I have no complaints. Cam, your delivery experience?
Similar. So again,
Yeah.
I think I said I had Sunday at 1, which they were supposed to be pretty busy, but there really weren't a lot of people there. I think when we were in the little waiting room, there was no one for a while, and there was some guy actually from the solar component that came and talked to us, but unfortunately my house is surrounded by trees, so I can't get any of that. But once it was our time, so I think we were probably within 5 minutes of our scheduled time. The guy was definitely very rushed, though. I mean, I could tell he wanted us in, he wanted us out of there. Luckily, though, David had showed me his car. I mean, we did what, like an hour and a half that one night and went through all the options, drove it around. So I kind of knew what I was getting into. And I do feel like if I would have slowed them down and said, no, I need a tutorial on this, they would have, but the guy was clearly like, he wanted this to be a 5-minute in and out of here. So he paired our phones, he helped with that. He did show us, the mobile charger or whatever it's called, and kind of went through all that. I kind of had to be like, I want to at least take a, once through, look around the car and make sure there's not any issues. Luckily, the only thing I found was one of the aero caps was sticking out a little bit. So he popped it off, looked at it, found one of the clips was missing. And he's like, oh, we could probably get another one from another car here. And then he just decided then to put it back on and just pushed a little harder, and it sat flush. And he was like, so is that fine? And I was like, I kind of want one that actually has all the clips. So I'm pretty sure they just went out to the parking lot and took one off of another car. So we got
So
that.
sorry.
Just keep passing it along until someone doesn't get playing, okay?
Someone
might
in
be
Portland
missing
has
a
that.
clip.
Ryan,
Yeah.
we should go out and check our car.
Probably, yeah. They were sitting there waiting for that one person to take it from. Other than that, though, I mean, I haven't found any issues with it. I know reading forums online, some people get really nitpicky about things. I didn't look over it with a fine-tooth comb, but I have not found anything. And again, it's been a great car to drive.
I thought the
and-
build quality analysis was pretty
Yeah.
good. I did spend some time looking at alignment, 'cause you had some alignment issues. I've seen online some alignment issues
Yeah.
and paint issues. Everything, man, it seemed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I maybe have one paint issue, but it's going to be where my rear license plate goes. So again, I don't really care.
yeah.
I don't think it's worth bringing up. Well, I guess there is one other thing I did discover after I've had it. I have a weird popping, clicking noise, I'd say. It's almost from like directly in front of me, and I think it's from the AC, the ventilation system. Notice it only seems to go on when the fan kicks on and when the car's warm. So to me, it sounds like a plastic expansion type sound.
Okay, or something stuck in there.
Yeah, or something like that. But everything works. I mean, I know they're busy over there. It doesn't bother me. It goes away after like 4 clicks. So
Yeah.
I'll wait. I'll bring it in whenever I have.
At some
another
point, I
issue with
bet they
the car.
will.
Yeah.
We'll get into that.
Yeah, so I'll
Yeah.
figure it out eventually. But otherwise, I guess back to the original thing. The delivery process, yes, rushed. I knew the features though, so I think that definitely helped. So,
Yeah.
if I hadn't had that, and if they'd still tried to rush me, I probably would have been pretty disappointed about it, because I mean, it's a different experience if you haven't driven that. And
The
so,
kind of moral story though for people that probably haven't taken delivery yet or taken delivery. Do your research ahead of time. Watch
Yeah,
the video.
watch
They
those
send you
videos.
those videos on the email or in your My
it's in
Tesla
the app
account.
even, yeah.
It
And
is
so
in the
we
app,
actually,
yeah.
because I had watched them being way more obsessed with this than
Yeah.
like my wife is, and so actually while we were sitting there waiting, because we got there like 15-20 minutes early just because I didn't want to be late for this appointment. I was anxious about it for like 2.5 years.
823
some
days.
So like my wife went through and watched them all, and she was like, oh, I didn't know that's how you would put it in Drive, or I don't even remember what all those videos
Yeah.
are, but it does go through the simple stuff, and having someone or them to go through all the little screens. But maybe a little bit of a tangent. So my dad is not electronic savvy, never been into electric cars. I've spent again the last 800 and some days talking about this thing. I had him drive it the other day, and he, again, does not do electronics. He has an iPhone, but he probably uses it to call and maybe text, and that's about it. He could figure out the touchscreen really easily, and he even commented like,
Cool.
this is well laid out. And so I
Awesome.
feel like for that, that's a good sign that they're doing it correct as far
Yeah.
as I'm concerned.
Cool.
Yeah. I like the user interface as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Except for that navigation. Move that over.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I just have to try. Much like Cam, I'm taller than Angela, I'll say. And so I just have
think we all
to
are.
turn my eyes. I don't have to turn my head. Yes.
Yeah. So I thought of a question I didn't ask Cam. What did you name your car?
T-Rex.
But the E is,
The E is
the three, right?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. My wife
I-
likes dinosaurs quite a lot, so we
Okay.
felt like it was fitting.
T-Rex. I like
I mean, you
that.
get the
Yeah.
Tesla part, you got the 3 part in there, so it worked.
Oh.
Oh,
like it.
well, now I haven't shared mine.
Yeah, what is your that's what-
Sojourner, which is, do you know the reference?
No.
Is it
The car's red. What's the other company, and that's the mission of it?
SpaceX, Mars.
SpaceX.
Mars,
It's the
right?
Mars
Yeah.
rover.
Oh.
It's the first Mars rover.
Okay.
So
Sojourner.
do you permanently leave your navigation screen
In Mars
in
mode.
the Mars mode?
I can.
You can never tell where you're
never
going.
know where I'm going.
Circles on a crater for
So it never goes anywhere. Yeah.
pretty much like Sojourner on Mars. That's
Yeah,
pretty much what it does. It just
rolled-
makes a circle.
rolled 50 feet and it's done.
Yeah. So I think kind of before we go, we have a sort of related story and a project that's going to occur, because as EV podcast hosts, we've probably committed a major sin, and that we've acquired 2 internal combustion engines this summer.
Since the last time we recorded this
One of-
podcast.
We're going to give you 6 months to correct this.
One of them will be corrected 6 months to a year in that time
Okay.
frame, and we'll tell you. The other one probably will not be. But we went. So I live in Oregon, but I work now in Los Angeles and need a place to stay. I think. Did we mention?
I
this
think
on the
we've
show?
talked about it a
Yeah.
little bit.
So we bought a little sailboat. It's in Los Angeles. That's what I'm going to sleep on.
I like it when
I'm
you
down
call
there.
it a floating mini home.
That's
A
what it
floating
is,
mini home.
basically.
It's a
Tiny
great
house.
description.
Tiny house.
Tiny,
Tiny
home.
house.
Tiny
house.
house. That's what
Tiny
they call
house.
them. Yeah, that's pretty much what it is. Yeah. So we bought a smart car, gasoline,
A gasoline
powered
one.
smart car. I know, but the charging situation I just didn't exist, and I needed more range. If I could buy a Tesla with 200 or a Bolt with 200 miles range for the price that I got the smart car for, that's certainly what I'd have. But as a second car, I couldn't spend $30,000 on a car. Sorry. I wish I could. I can't. So anyway, we bought a little smart car. We bought it in Oregon. We drove it down to Los Angeles. We did a road trip. We
That was
tried
fun.
to supercharge it. It did not work.
No, I didn't know where to plug it in. I was really confused.
No. So we drove it down there. Halfway down, we discovered that the car requires premium fuel that we had not been putting in it. So it was the first time I got gas in like 2.5 years.
And in my defense, it was the first time I had gotten gas in the car, or the first time I got gas in the car.
Yeah.
You know, we're in Oregon; it's not self-serve, so I didn't look at the little
Yeah,
gas
there's
flap
a sticker
thingy.
on the gas flap.
Okay, fine.
So anyway, we finally realized it takes premium, and the drive down was there was no autopilot. That was awful to drive that far without an autopilot. The smart car does not drive as nice as a Tesla, I can tell you. Yeah, I mean, it's good for the purpose. It's serving, but it's got a weird shifting thing. But this isn't a smart car show, so we're not going to go into that. But anyway, we got it down to Los Angeles and to where the boat was. It was in Wilmington, which is the very north end, top end of the port of Los Angeles. And we're trying to get it out to Redondo Beach, California. And
By the way, the second internal combustion engine we're talking about here is
boat.
The boat that has a
1981 11 horsepower diesel engine.
correct
Um,
original engine.
the original engine.
Yeah.
And the plan was to motor it the whole way. It's like 25 miles, something like that.
23 miles.
There you go, 23 miles through the port of Los Angeles, busiest port in the United States, by the way. And it has sails, but we weren't familiar with the sail setup fully. So the plan was to get it done. We were just going to motor the thing the whole way.
We had 1 day to get it
With one day,
out of its
it's
slip.
got
Yeah.
a 20-gallon diesel tank. It burns like 0.7 gallons an hour. No problem. Get it that
there.
stretch. Just
Yeah.
get it there with the motor. So that's the game plan. We started doing that, and it started overheating on us in the port of Los Angeles. Do you want to tell the story?
I'll
You
tell
the
the story.
You
I like
the
telling the story. I'm finally at the point that I can laugh about it because there were a lot of tears during this episode. So we had planned that this whole journey was going to take about 6 hours.
Yeah, about that.
5.5, 6 hours.
You can average 3 to 4 knots at
Right.
65% throttle or something.
So we get about 40 minutes into our. Well, first of all, I should say it took us probably about half hour, 45 minutes just to get the engine started.
Yes, it is a finicky 40-year-old diesel motor.
And I probably should have seen that as a warning sign, but I didn't. And so we get going. For the first 40 minutes, we're like, this is great. We're doing awesome. I have this awesome picture of Ryan. He looks like he's, captain of his ship and really enjoying
I'm the
life.
captain now.
And so this happens to be Labor Day weekend. It's the Friday of Labor Day weekend, which also happens to be LA Fleet Week, which apparently is a really big deal down there. The Fleet Week in Portland is not as big a deal. But they had, I
This
believe,
super cool 3-month-old stealth battleship. The thing was badass. Let me tell you.
so there were like 4 battleships in the port here, besides all of the normal, giant container ships that were in the port. And so we have to, go down the middle of this port. The Fleet Week ships were all surrounded by police boats, smaller police boats, that were kind of patrolling there. And there was, so we're motoring our way down. We literally get right to the north end of where this like barrier zone is that we're not supposed to encroach on. And Ryan asks me to go check a couple things inside the cabin. I go down inside and I come back up. I was like, why, what's going on? He's like, well, The engine,
I knew it was
the
overheating.
engine's running a little hot.
I knew it was overheating for like 5 minutes. Didn't really want to worry Angela too much. I was trying to troubleshoot discreetly. There was no place to dock at this point. It's just container ships.
Yeah,
I had no.
the only docking situation are intended for these giant container ships. You know, they're not for 27-foot sailboats. So, so just as Ryan says, well, the engine's overheating a little bit, it just sputters and dies. And I'm like, oh my God, what do I do now? And he's, trying to turn it back on, and it's not turning back on. And we're just floating there, kind of bobbing along. And he's like, go get the sails out. So I take the cover off and start pulling it. It turns out our mainsail's not even hooked up. We don't even know where the halyard is. Like, yeah, it
We
turns
didn't pre-flight
out
that because we were intended to just
we
motor it
were
the
planning
whole way.
to, and in hindsight, we probably should have
Sure.
prepared better. We learned some valuable lessons on this trip. So, we're bobbing here, and one of the police boats sees us, and they, yell over the loudspeaker, "You can't stop here. You need to move. Need to move." And of course, because I'm panicked and I'm crying and don't know what else to do, I just start waving my arms like a stupid person.
I think that's
like
the
SOS,
international.
I mean,
symbol
we
for
have
it.
a VHF radio in there.
And it was on the
And it
channel
was
16,
on.
which is the correct frequency. It was on there.
Anyway, so the police come over, and I explain the situation, and this is probably our bad because we are still quite new at this whole sailing and boating situation, that we were not aware of, like, AAA for boats, or what you do in those situations.
by
that
the way.
exists. It does. It does. We found out the hard way. So I asked the police officers, how, who do we call for help? And he's like, vessel assist. And I'm like, I have no idea what that is. And so he leaves, and I'm like, where's he going? And anyway, another police vessel comes up and offers to
Nicer guys,
much
to say
nicer
one.
guys, I will say. They were very, very kind, and they laughed with us about our whole scenario that we were in. They offered to tow us to the nearest
Public dock.
So they towed us, maybe a mile or so. I don't know, maybe not that far. Anyway, tie us up.
Past the battleship.
Past the battleships, basically. We tie up to this public dock, and they're like, okay, now you can work out what to do with your tow. And we're like, okay, so we're troubleshooting the engine. We're troubleshooting, what do? We call our insurance company, trying to figure out who was going to tow us. This is when we discover that vessel assist is something you sign up for before you need it. And they will come tow you. It's like AAA, but of course we were not already signed up for this. And so, we decided what we were going to do was just try to limp the boat, to the nearest marina we could find that had slips that would fit our boat.
It's like a mile away.
Which was like a mile away.
Yeah.
It took us probably 2 hours.
About that. I was running well. I would run the motor for about 5-10 minutes until the temperature got above the recommended operating range, and then I'd shut it down and let it cool down for 10-15 minutes.
No, it was much longer than that. It was like a half hour every
and then
time.
we'd let it float, which, by the way, the current was going the wrong way, so we were going backwards back to where we had already gone, and then we kept doing that, and I thought my strategy was good, and the strategy worked. We got to where we...
It was very, very stressful.
For you, yeah.
I may have lost a year of my life just on the stress level on that. But we finally made it to the marina. We were stuck at this temporary marina for a week trying to get this engine to work. Turns out that...
I spent a week as an internal combustion engine mechanic, and I hated it. And then it took me 2 weeks to get dirt out of my fingernails, scrubbing profusely with orange whatever hand wash. And I learned, the moral of the story is we finally just got it towed up after a week.
We finally
I
just
gave
paid
up.
somebody to tow it
I know
for
what's
us.
wrong with it. We know what's wrong with this cooling system issue, and it's about clearing the cooling system. These old diesel Marines use salt water as coolant, which is...
when an engine doesn't run for a while,
yeah.
it
So-
tends to have sediment.
Yeah, so sediment builds up, and we're trying to clear that sediment. I know what it is. It's in the gasket. Got to get it off. I hate that I know what a gasket is. I shouldn't have to worry about that kind of stuff in 2018. So anyway, the moral of the story is, I talked about it in a previous episode, a company called Torqeedo that makes electric motors. We're going to put an electric motor in this boat. It's going to happen. It's going to be a project. We're going to talk about it on this show. Their batteries, use the BMW batteries, they're too expensive. I want to do a Tesla setup with these batteries. We're going to look into it. It's going to be a project we're going to do with old salvaged Model S or X cells. And it's going to be awesome. And we're going
Sounds
to talk
awesome.
about it. And it's going to be an electric sailboat, 100% renewable. motor, battery, and sales. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be beautiful.
Awesome.
Is solar in there anywhere to charge
There
it?
probably will be solar.
Okay.
Charging, on the shore will probably be plugged in, and unfortunately, there's like a natural gas plant like 100 feet away from the marina. So my bet is that the electricity that I'm plugging into is probably coming from that in California. But it's California, and California, like a couple weeks ago, said by
They're doing it.
2050, 100% renewable. So by the time I retire, the boat will
Yeah.
be completely charged by renewable energy. Perfect.
Cool.
All right.
I like it.
That was a long story.
It
Sorry.
was. It's a good story, but we're going to update you on this on the podcast
keep you
as
updated.
this project happens. It's going to be some planning and a bunch of stuff and designing it, but it's going to be awesome. I promise you.
I look forward to it.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm going to come down there to that floating tiny
Please,
house.
You're invited.
You are. It sleeps 5.
Oh, well.
Oh.
Has room for us.
Everyone can
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll record an episode there one time.
Ooh.
Once the project's completed.
We'll have to get our mobile podcasting set up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'd be awesome. Well, guys, I think a great episode.
Yeah.
It's been a
Yeah.
long time. Let's not. make
Thanks
it-
for listening to this massively long episode.
Yes.
Yeah, we had to catch up, and we promise it won't be this long until next time because our schedules have all kind of normalized.
Yep.
Yeah, so we'll be back soon. I promise. Anyone else want to say goodbye, or should I just turn the thing off?
Later. Goodbye.
Thanks for listening.
All right.
Engine on hum, and I'm driving an electric, helping out the planet, plus I'm feeling real sporty. New type of swag, looking cool when I'm 40.
Supercharged Podcast is presented by David Zygmunt, Ryan Vinton, Cameron Larson, and Angela Vinton. Portions of Dippin' in My Tesla are courtesy of Jay Brave. Copyright 2010. Lufam Pro Entertainment. Visit us on Facebook by searching Supercharged Podcast, on Twitter @SuperchargedPod, and Instagram @Supercharged Podcast. Have a question or comment you'd like to hear on the show? Call our hotline +1 657 845 1673.